2025, getting back into things. This is episode 193 of Will's Guide to Programming Language. This is programming, computation, and what have you. Yep. Today is May 13th, 2025. It is 2 a.m. Well, thought I'd make a quick video, quick Will radio. I haven't made a Will radio in 5 weeks or something like that. Haven't made a Beta GM in considerably longer, I think. I don't know, 2 months or something. It's been a while. At least a month and a half, I think. Yeah. Just been distracted with work and travel. I guess I should say plus travel / vacation. Sort of a work vacation. Yeah. News. As always, watching too much news. And I been missing the intensity for when I was trying that experiment. What was it, January? Where I was trying everything at once, right? I just wasn't getting that much sleep. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go through my list here. But I'm not going to sleep until I get my list done, right? I don't know how effective that was. It was effective at getting me started with some things, like trying some oil painting, that kind of thing. I think overall it wasn't all that effective. It was hard for me to concentrate when I was switching so quickly. And I was just tired all the time. But I did have a certain intensity, and there was a certain, get up in the morning and like, let's get at it, right? That kind of thing that I've been missing. Not that I haven't been doing lots of things, but I think you know what I mean. There's just a certain thing where like you jump out of bed and, go at it the whole day. So I've missed that. I think that's a difficult state for me to get into. And often, I guess, sometimes I just have to get in that state. When I worked at summer camp, for example, I worked at a summer camp for children and adults with disabilities. That was just, the second you wake up, that's you go until you fall asleep. That was almost no downtime ever. That was super intense. So there are things like that where I just don't have a choice. Or I took a summer school in synthetic biology from Cold Spring Harbor. That was really intense, and it was like 2 weeks or something. And that, same thing, like, from the moment you wake up until go to sleep, like you're just going. But if I don't have to do that, it's hard to put myself in that state because, there's some discomfort to that, right? Like it's, I, like most people, I think are just, there's a reluctance to just going full tilt all the time, right? It's hard to do and to maintain that. But when you're doing it, even though it's tiring and exhausting and uncomfortable, it does have kind of its own feeling and momentum, and, you're doing cool things, you're learning a lot, so that I miss. And I was able to do that in January with my experiment. And I've been thinking today or yesterday that, I want to get back into that, something like that state again. But not in the way I did in January. I think January, I just tried doing too many things at once, and, got me into a certain state where I was, really, really engaged in that process. But at the same time, it was hard for me to concentrate on anything too much. So I want to be able to concentrate more, but I still want to have, more intensity. So I'm trying to think about how to do that. And so that's one reason I'm making a video tonight. I've been wanting to make a video for a little bit, but I was like, well, let me just go ahead and get started. Yeah. I was thinking about that, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half ago. I was like, hey, it's not that late. I can make a video. So even if it's just a short wheel radio, I wanted to start getting going. And let's see. A goal is to make a B2GMK video this week. I guess I'll put that down here. Yeah, so that's one of the things I want to do is start getting back into that series, the Bronze to GM and Mini Kenrin series that I started making. And I also, I was talking to some friends last week that helped me figure this out. In addition to wanting to continue making that series, I do want to be writing. I want to be writing books, and I've had trouble deciding what exactly I want to write. But this idea of a series of books, from sort of introductory scheme into, all the way through like advanced relational programming, that series of books I do want to write, and I know that will take a while, and maybe a year a book or something like that if I really go at it. Maybe it takes 2 years a book, I don't know, but it'll take infinitely long if I don't do it. So one of my friends asked me about this, give him a pitch for a book, and I was like, well, I've been thinking about writing 8 books or something. And then by the end of dinner, it's like, yeah, okay, I guess I do know what I want to do. And I keep coming back to this. And also as part of that conversation, it's like, well, should the B to GM MK series be a book? It's like, I don't know. That seems to work better as videos, probably. I could imagine maybe doing another set of videos, maybe more refined or more directed or something. I don't know if they'd be better. But the video part seems loose in a cool way, because a lot of the B to GM stuff or B to GMK stuff isn't about like a technical isn't about a specific technical thing. It's more, it's much broader. It's like a set of practices and a way of thinking, about learning and research and, how to get better at things, all those sorts of things mixed up. And, hopefully things like how to write a paper and, thinking about language design, all those sorts of things, reading specs, reading a language, like the scheme report, whatever. It probably works better as a video series than as a book, I suspect. But in any case, if I did want to write a book on it eventually, I think making the series would help me figure out if that even makes sense, and also, hopefully would give me material I could use if I wanted to make a book. Whereas a series of books like Intro Scheme through Advanced Relational Programming, this would be much more focused on technical aspects than the B to GMK series, which is more of a mix. And so it's just big. This feels big, but if I break it into smaller parts, so I want to get started on that again. So that's let's see. My goal is to start writing on this series this week. Okay, so I got 2 goals here. One goal is to make a B2 GMs. Actually, there are 3, right? Okay. Goal is to make a Will Radio video this week. Okay, so I'm doing that right now. Just get going. Yeah, so like I was saying, the difference between the video series and the books more technical, like probably more standard bookish things, where the video series could talk about, I don't know, burnout, or if you go to a conference, how do you make friends, or giving a talk, all sorts of things that might be outside the scope of programming language techniques or programming techniques. So yeah, I mean, I could always do a companion volume, I guess, that would have some of this, but I think for writing right now, I'd want to focus on the technical stuff. Yeah, so that's the difference. Weight, like I said in the previous video, like 5 weeks ago, I wanted to lose 40 pounds. So I've lost 10 pounds. Been keeping that off. I think I'm ready to lose some more. I was starting to lose it too quickly, I think. That's why I think the problem the previous time I tried. So I lost it too quickly. It's like, okay, it's easier for me to just eat very little in a day than to count calories or be super careful all day. So it's like, all right, well, once I get used to being hungry, it was easy to just lose weight, and I lost weight faster than I expected. And my body was like, yeah, it's a little too fast. So this time, I've been losing weight slowly. I've been at 10 pounds, minus 10 pounds for a little bit now. And I think I can start losing again. But that was part of it. It's like, okay, I'd lose a little bit. This time it's like, okay, lose a little bit of weight. And then I just kind of like, okay, let me eat normally for a while. And then I can lose some more. So anyway, so I still have 30 pounds to go. Yeah. I've been spending lots of time with friends recently. That's been fun, and having lots of stimulating conversations, a lot of technical conversations, and going to see some family soon. So looking forward to all that. I've been into film noir recently. Recently, like the last week or less, actually, probably last like 3 days or something. I've always been interested in film noir, but so I watched The Long Goodbye the other day. That's the Robert Altman film from the 70s with like Elliot Gould and Sterling Hayden. So that's a very interesting, more modern take on, I guess, Philip Marlowe. So that was interesting. I like Robert Altman for the most part, so I did find that to be an entertaining film. Last night or tonight or whatever you want to call it, I watched Odds Against Tomorrow. That's a very interesting film from 1959, and so that's like a film noir, but it also has Harry Belafonte in it, and it has a lot of it was also against the racial backdrop in the United States and New York in 1959. That was, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe that'd be a B movie, but actually I thought it was really good. There was like one part at the end I thought was a little like, okay, I can see their special effects budget maybe wasn't great, but in general, I quite like that film. And then a film I'm starting to watch is The Big Combo. And that one has been praised for the cinematography. The cinematography is apparently one person said that it, other than Citizen Kane, it has the best noir cinematography. So starting to watch that one. And then it's like, yeah, I could either watch 2 noir tonight or watch part of the second one and make a video. So I decided I want to make a video. Maybe I'll finish watching it tonight. I don't know. It's not that long. And let's see what else. So for a long time, for a very long time, I've wanted to learn Haskell. I know a little bit of Haskell, but not really. Like I don't use Haskell. And I certainly don't know the advanced stuff. So that's one of my goals. I'm actually trying to learn 3 things. So I've learned a little Dafny. I was going through the Dafny book for a while. I'm learning some Lean 4. It's another language I've wanted to learn. And I'm learning some Haskell. So taking sort of the Feynman approach for Haskell, learning in an idiosyncratic way. So part of learning Haskell for me is reading the history of Haskell. I think that was from like 2007 or something. I think that was from like Hoppel, one of the Hoppel conferences. There's a history of Haskell. And that's interesting because it tells you a lot about the motivation of the language. And even though, that's quite old now compared to the latest version of Haskell, it tells you about some of the initial motivations and what the designers were trying to do and some of the initial changes and what some of the seminal papers are. And so when they'd talk about a paper that I wasn't familiar with, I would go, or maybe I'd heard about it, but not really looked at it. I'd, stop and I would go and look at the paper and read the abstract and kind of skim it, not a super deep dive, but just trying to get a sense of, what are the papers that they thought were important for the design or were important observations in the early history of Haskell. So that's been fun. That's I think a good way for me to learn basics of it. And then also, I've started reading various Haskell books, and I usually get pretty bored by those because a lot of times it's like, hey, this is a beginning programming book, or this is the introduction to functional programming. It's like, okay, sure, but I want to kind of get into something else. And then there's like the Haskell spec or report or whatever, but that tends to be kind of dry. So right now I've got an early version. I guess I tried reading, was it the Haskell 98 report or maybe even one after that? But I was just started from like Haskell 1.1 or something like that, an older one. And there's also this article that went with it that was like talking about the cool parts of Haskell. So, I think kind of trying to read those things and the history together just to give me some sense of like, okay, what were the fundamental ideas here and how was it put together before we get into all the really fancy stuff and GHC extensions and whatever. It's like too much for me to handle at once. And also I want to try to understand things like type classes at a better level. Lean 4, been playing around with that a little bit. There's like a tutorial where you play these number games. I've been going through that a little bit. Lean 4 seems like an interesting language, and I've been wanting to learn some more math anyway. So maybe I can combine those things some. Dafny, I was learning Dafny stuff. I think there's some interesting overlap between Dafny and Lean 4, but I like the fact that Dafny is basically, it's like HoRLogic. It's like kind of Eiffel, the Eiffel language, Bertrand Meyer's Eiffel language, but, it's like statically checked with an SMT solver. Lean 4 also can integrate with an SMT solver, but has like this mathlib, gigantic collection of math libraries and other things. I'd like to do like a mini Canron or micro Canron Lean 4 as an exercise. I think that'd be cool. And then maybe you could use sort of an embedded mini Canron-ish thing to also as a way to search for things. Anyway, this has been fun. It's been a little frustrating for me as a reviewer of papers because like, okay, yeah, I know Scheme pretty well. I know some Racket and all that, and I know basic ideas of functional programming, but I'm not like an expert in typed stuff or, advanced type class hackery or whatever. And, Haskell at this point is probably the most common language used in academic PL research and for top conferences. That I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's certainly, if it's not the most popular, it's like one of the most popular. I think it probably is the most popular right now. And it, it's frustrating. It's like, oh yeah, here's a paper. It looks cool. And it's in Haskell and it uses a bunch of advanced Haskell stuff. It's just hard for me to read it. So I would like to get to the point where, I feel much more comfortable and I can write Haskell code and all that. There are parts of Haskell I don't particularly like. I think it's a much larger, more complicated language than I'd like. It feels a little common Lispy in a sense to me. And I was reading the history of it. I got that sense. It's like, okay, part of the perspective here was there are a bunch of people doing these non-strict functional languages as researchers, and they wanted to have one language that could basically incorporate all of those or encapsulate all of those ideas. So that meant it had to be basically like a superset of all the major ideas, instead of having like some, instead of saying like, let's take the intersection and only have a couple things. And then with GHC extensions and all that, it's actually a very big language, which is not my preference. I don't know, that doesn't fit my personality as much. But it does have interesting ideas in it. Lean 4 seems pretty cool, so I'm enjoying that. Yeah, Dafny felt a little weird to me in some sense, because there's like the functional version and then there's this kind of like imperative version. So it's almost like two languages that are separate. That part I didn't like so much. And I'm not a big fan of some of the the syntax. And also Haskell, like they're bragging in the history of Haskell about like, oh yeah, well, maybe we shouldn't brag too much, but people say it's a very pretty language. I was like, well, that's not my opinion, but I'm coming from Lisp, so my idea of a pretty language is different. But I do not like the syntax of Haskell. But I think the syntax of Dafny is even worse. I'm not sure about the syntax of Lean 4 yet. Okay, so I've started reading a very thin book from 1960, I think it is. Naive Set Theory by Paul Halmos, who was at Indiana University. Although in 1960, Indiana University wasn't known very well, so that actually says University of Indiana on the book. Even the publisher couldn't get it right. At two places it has Halmos' name. It says University of Indiana. My understanding is like in the 60s and 70s, that was a pretty common thing. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So I haven't been making, Will radios, and I haven't been making the beta GMs. I haven't been hacking a lot, although I did start hacking last weekend, and then I kind of nerd sniped myself into reading about Haskell and playing with Lean 4. So, I think that's fine. That's me learning technical stuff. That's, sort of grist for the mill. If I know from experience, if I spend time learning about stuff like this, this will give me ideas for things to hack on. And so that's okay. I'm okay with that. Naive Set Theory, I like that. This book's very approachable. It's supposed to be like a very general intro undergrad book on set theory. Yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. I actually had this book a long time ago and sort of didn't get into it, but at this point I'm sort of in a different space, so I'm enjoying it. We'll see how far I get, but I'd like to read the whole book's only like 100 pages. Now it's a math book, but it's not the most dense math book. So I would like to be able to get through this. But I haven't been doing Japanese other than passive, listening to some music or watching a few videos. And I haven't been making music for a bit. So I guess and I haven't been doing art in terms of like drawing or painting. So, but Japanese and music were two things that I was trying to get into. And so I guess that's part of the question is like, how much of this do I want to try to bite off at once? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the fact that I have question marks there means that right now, I want to get back into making a series, and I want to start working on those books. So, yeah. Well, we'll see about the Japanese and the music. I have been missing the Japanese in particular. If I were to pick one of those two right now, it'd probably be Japanese. But I don't know. Let me just kind of start ramping up. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. May 13th, 2025. This is kind of where I am at. And so once I process and upload this video, I will have accomplished that goal for this week. And then I've got the B2GM goal and start working on the books. One book at a time, but maybe outline the series. I've done some of the work on this before, but I think I just want to dig into it. Okay, well, hopefully I'll have a B2GM uploaded later this week. Okay, talk to you later. Hope you're doing well. Bye-bye.